MBT, or GMT games. We are on turn 8 of scenario 3. We're using all basic and advanced rules, plus the optional rules listed below. I'm replaying this from a log file for a game played on VASSAL. If you want to see this on my page, link below. Spawning phase first. There are no spawning activities. NATO has 3 units and 2 commands. Soviets have 13 commands, only 6 of which can be move or halt because, as you saw last turn, they have units that are out of the command span. So now the movement placement command, the command placement. So I think most Soviet units are getting a move command here. That right there is a headquarters tank. Now I'm actually giving some units short halts here. Okay, so if you look right here at what I did, let me zoom in a little bit. Over here, you can zoom in a little bit more. Okay, so there's a unit within Overwatch. So I have 3 units in Overwatch over here. Those two mechanized infantry are in Overwatch. And that hull damaged heavy artillery over there, I gave that a short halt and let's see, I gave trying to think which one I gave the short halt to and which one I gave the move command to. I believe I gave the BTR 70s a short halt and I gave the move command to the heavy artillery unit. Yeah, that's what I did. Because I wanted those BTR units to fire at. Go over here. You can see that unit down there. So I wanted those BTR units to take this shot right here. One of those BTR units to take that shot. So that's why I put the 2 BTR units in short halt and I put the heavy artillery into Overwatch. And units that aren't going to be moving forward, I'm just putting in Overwatch. I have plenty of commands, so it doesn't matter. Now this Bradley is going to fire at that hex that has the BT, the heavy artillery and the 2 unit and the 2 BTRs. And I want to move forward, so I'm actually giving it a short halt instead. Okay, I want to see if I can fire. Now that's the Soviet, that's the American headquarters tank, which moved forward last turn. I want to see if it has a shot. It has a line of sight, and it does. I'm just checking the line of sights to the various units. Well, this is actually a spotting attempt. I want to see if if that headquarters tank, which is in the alley, facing outward from the town, is spotted. And it has plenty of units looking at it. So it is spot moved. If you have enough units and you have a unit moving that's in line of sight, then it's automatically spotted. But if you don't have a lot of units, it might go unspotted. So I'm going to give that headquarters tank and that the mortar a fire command so I can try to do the indirect fire again. I'm giving that platoon up there in the NATO section, headquarters section, I'm giving that move command. So if I want to, I can move it deeper in the city. Now we do the initiative. So that I placed all my fire commands. The only other thing to note is that these two units over here, I've given fire commands to, because they're facing each other. So one of them is a recon section, and the other one is we have two tanks actually. And the recon section has a light LAW, light anti-tank weapon, which because these two tanks, it's facing their rear side. I'm not even sure if it can affect them. I think it can, because that's at medium, but that's at medium range. So Soviets win initiative and they fire. There's no Soviet indirect fire, so we're going to have NATO indirect fire. NATO's going to try to fire smoke to protect its headquarters tank right there. So I have to see if the 106 is smoke available. So I need 6 or greater. Now, if I get through fire response, the smoke placement's automatic. So I get 6 or greater with +1 die roll modifier. So I basically need a 5 or greater. I roll an 8. So the response was successful. And then I have to do an availability check to see if the firing unit actually has smoke units. And 7 said no ability. No availability. It was too high. I think I need to roll. Let's take a look. I use the M106. I needed a 6 or less. So that's why I had no. I rolled a 7. So that's why there's no smoke there right now. That's the indirect fire phase. Now, because Soviet won the initiative, they do the first direct fire. They're going to fire against my headquarters, the quarters tank. I believe they have 2 tanks there. Yeah. They're going to fire the kinetic energy, the armor piercing, discarding sabot at 9. They need 9 or less for availability. Both tanks have to roll it. Success. And the next tank, 1. So both tanks have can use the kinetic energy. That's going to be a short range command. Column row shift of -1 for the cover modifier. Row shift of +2 for the laser modifier. 2 is 77, 83 is a miss. The second shot is a hit. Second tank hits its target. Now you notice right here, I have that tank faced very poorly. It has its front side to the enemy. This is something I really hurt NATO, is that when I place my tanks, I place them so that the front wasn't facing the enemy, the hull side was, and the hull side is more vulnerable. So the base penetration is 97 at short range, and the penetration modifier is 13, so the net penetration is 110. The location damage roll is a 6 and a 2. Front side target aspect, it hits hull front. Penetration's 110. The armor's 100. It penetrates and it just does hull damage. I'm checking for bailout, and the crew does not bail out. So it's one shot. That vehicle has hull damage. Hull damage basically halves your movement factors. IBNTI. I have no idea what IBNTI means. Oh, that's just initiative. I muddled initiative. So NATO wins and fires. Mention 3Y9 to 1L9. So let's see where that, oh, I know where that is. That's right here. So that's this little area right here. So this is the, is that section? That's the recon section fire. It's light anti-tank weapon, LIW, against one of those tanks. Handheld anti-tank weapon. It's a range, actually it wasn't extreme range, it was medium range. Well, yeah, 1-2, so. So the 2-hit number was 13, penetration 61, and I got 87. That actually was a medium range shot, but still would have missed because 87 was very high. Big miss. Now that's marked as fired. Okay, so now another initiative. Soviets win, Soviets win, Soviets fire. And those two units are going to fire back at a range of, that's not a range of 3. 1, 2. That's actually at a range of 2. Oh, okay. So since I'm going from board to board, there's an error in the calculation, so you have to be careful of that. So if you're using last light from board to board in this particular module, that hex that's on 2 different boards will be double counted. So that's what happened here. So if you zoom in to that particular hex, so if you see the hex that's behind those 2 vehicles, there's 2 different numbers on it. And each one of those numbers, so that's 2 different hexes the line of fire modifier uses. So it won't affect this particular shot though, because this particular shot is at point blank range anyways. Okay, so they're going to be firing GP ammo at point blank range. The GP offense is 8. The GP defense is 4. I need a 36 or plus for suppression, a 68 plus for casualty reduction. There is no die roll modifiers to that. I roll a 26 and no effect. I have a second vehicle. I roll a 63 and it's suppression. So I put, now, if you're suppressed, one of 2 things is going to happen. And only NATO has fires. Well, no, only Soviet has fires left. There's actually a bunch of fires out here. And so when you do suppression, and like in this case, if a unit gets a suppression result and suppression off, it's flipped to suppression on. And if it doesn't have any suppression, it's given a suppression on marker. So this unit was given a suppression on. So if your unit suffers suppression, you're going to end up with suppression on marker. That only NATO fires is incorrect. I believe only Soviets, no, both have fires. Now here's more fire against my headquarters tank. Short range, penetration factor of 96. Laser sight +2 row shift. Unit quality +1 roll shift. The net roll shift is +3. Short range +3. I'm firing at 91, and that's actually front side target aspect. Miss. Second vehicle. Okay, I only had 1 shot. So I guess that was the, yeah, that was the actually the Abrams firing at one of those tanks right there. Soviet wins initiative, Soviet fire. So now we have Soviets firing right here. They're firing from a short halt. So based on the stable, short halt is you fire and then you have half your movement factors left to move. And the penalty, the 2-hit penalty for that, or the GP penalty for that, depends upon the stabilization of the vehicle. A vehicle with no stabilization has a 4, and it'll be -4. And then you have, so the worst stabilization is 4. No, the worst stabilization is stabilization 0. If you have stabilization 0, there's a -4 modifier. The best stabilization, stabilization 1, there's a -1 modifier. And then it goes 2, -2 modifier, and 3, -3 modifier. That's the way stabilization works. So I check range. So those are both BTR 70s. So it's going to be a long range because they're not stabilized. So that's going to be a -4 because of the short halt with no stabilized gun. So I'm using GP ammo. The GP offense is 2. The GP defense is 3. 55 plus is suppression. 81 plus is effective. And here's the modifier. Because the gun isn't stabilized. Now that -4 would have been to the 2-hit die roll, but there is no 2-hit die roll because I'm using general purpose GP, explosive shells. So instead you get a die roll modifier, which in this case is -15. Is there a turret reverse issue? And I actually found out that because the turret wasn't facing in the correct direction to begin with, I should not have allowed that shot. But I'm going to allow it because I had to move, like I moved the turret for the Bradley last turn, but I didn't move the turret for these two vehicles, which I should have. I should have seen that coming, so I'm going to allow them to place turrets now. Okay, I roll a 61. 61 -15 is 49, no effect. Next vehicle, I roll a 62. 62 -15 is no effect. I needed a 55 or above to have even suppression, so there's no effect on that unit. And vehicles can be suppressed. Now I'm firing back. I'm using the tow, and I didn't roll for initiative for some reason. I should have rolled for initiative because Soviets still have some units that haven't fired yet, but this won't affect the game outcome at all. So point blank range. Now this unit has tow missiles. It's a Bradley, has tow missiles. It's going to be a point blank range, short halt. It doesn't have stabilization, so would have been a -4 row shift. It is a -4 row shift because it has a 2-hit roll. Anti-tank guided missiles and kinetic energy and CE weapons against vehicles, you need a 2-hit. GP fire, you don't need a 2-hit. You just GP fire, you don't need a 2-hit, so any modifiers go against the effectiveness dice rolls. So the anti-tank guided missile modifier for moving targets -1 because it's firing at a short halt. This is the first time we've seen anti-tank guided missiles under fire. For an anti-tank guided missile, you have to the user has to basically kind of like aim it at the target until it locks on. So in this case, you had an anti-tank guided missile under fire penalty -1. Now, depending upon the type of anti-tank missile, that could go anywhere from -1 to -4. The tow missile that the Bradley is using has the best. It's more automated than other versions, so the under fire penalty isn't as significant. Okay, net -6 row modifier, but that doesn't matter. Oh yeah, it does actually. I need a 36 to hit. So where are all the modifiers here? Why did I get okay, so it's firing from a short halt, no stabilization, -4 row shift against a moving target, another -1 row shift. Anti-tank guided missile on the fire, another -1 row shift. So the row modifier is -6. So in point blank column, point blank range, go down 6 columns and you'll that shot just missed. Now I mark, right here, I'm just marking the units that fired with the spot fire modifier, and I'm flipping over the short halt all right. Now these short halts, the way you do it is that they go on the unit at the fire side, and then after you fire, you flip it over to the move side. Now the reason I did that missed right there was basically because it was under fire. It just barely affected the shot, so where it just missed, it turned a sure hit into a barely almost hit miss. Okay, do we have any Overwatch fire? Yes, we do. Let's see where our Overwatch fire is. We have to have a line of sight, and I think I'm going to be checking line of sights here, see if anybody has Overwatch fire. All right, Overwatch fire occurs after all. It can be cascading, where one Overwatch can trigger another Overwatch, can trigger another Overwatch. It also occurs during movement. So right here, I'm trying to see if I have. So I have units over here that have Overwatch fire, and they can see that headquarters tank right there that fired, so they have Overwatch fire. Over here, I'm just checking line of sights and ranges. So I have 6 over. Now this is cool. This is a really cool thing that happens. All right. So those 6 units are BTR BMP2s. They're very, very lightly armored. They're basically armored personnel carriers, APCs. They actually have spandrel anti-tank ion missiles. So they're going to get 6 shots, because there's 2 stacks of 3 each, at that headquarters vehicle. It's going to be a point blank range. They have Overwatch fire, so it's going to be a -1 roll modifier. The unit is an alleyway, so it's going to be a -1 modifier. And for each one of them, I have to roll 4 or less for them to have the availability, because they're infantry carriers. So sometimes they might have that ammo, or might not even have that ammo. So these are the availability rolls. So I roll a 2, 8, and 5. So only one of those first 3 units has the ammo. The second deck, only one of these units. So I'll have 2 shots. All right, 2 success, 1 from each firing stack. So I have those 6 vehicles. Only 2 of those will be able to take a shot. No, I stand corrected. Of those 6 vehicles, only 2 will be able to take a shot without the severe low ammo penalty. The other 4 will be able to take a shot, but it's a -3 roll modifier on the 2 hit for low ammo. 4 shots will get the limited ammo modifier. The ammo limit modifier is a -3 roll shift. So I'm going to do the easier shots first. 2 shots point blank, net -2 roll modifier. 4 shots point blank, net -5 roll modifier. So I'm going to do the 2 shots with the -2 roll modifier first. 72. That's a hit. It hits the, and actually, yeah, it hits the front side aspect. Why is there no penetration? There's no penetration modifier because it's an anti-tank ion missile. Location damage 2-7. And I'm adjusting turrets down here now for some reason. Kind of random. Oh, I duplicated the turret marker so I could place a turret marker on the headquarters tank. Because the headquarters tank, in order to fire at those units, had to have its turret facing its front side. And I didn't do that before, so that's why I placed the turret marker. If you notice on the turret marker, there's a B. That's because with the turret rules, you have the option to button up or be crew exposed. I'm not using that particular part of the turret rule right now. So it's a turret side hit. So ironically, if I had had that turret facing forward, that would have been a turret front hit, and you always want to go for front hits. So penetration is 120, turret side. Penetration is 120. Now the armor on the turret side is 59, but because they have, remember, the anti-tank gun missile has a chemical, it causes an explosion which burns into the tank, and the special armor for that. And at that particular spot in that particular tank, they have the armor. So the turret side normal armor is 59, but it's doubled due to chemical explosive armor being fired against it. So its armor is 118. So I have 120 minus 118, and the shot does not penetrate. Oh, no, it does penetrate. 120 is greater than 118, so it penetrates, and the result was a brew up. Now I'm going to see if now I have 4 of the shots coming in. For every shot that misses, I have to roll. If you're in a town and an anti-tank gun missiles are fired at you and they miss, you have to check to see if there's a fire hit. So I have to see which of the next 4 do not hit. 1 hits, no modifier. All right. So that was the second shot with the units that had the adequate ammo. These are all going to be the 4 vehicles that do not have adequate ammo. 92 is a miss, 61 is a miss, 65. Each one of these is a fire die roll. 19 is a hit, so we won't count that. So we have 3 chances to starting a fire. The wooden building's GP attack factor is equivalent to 12. So 1 through 40 on any of the 3 dice rolls starts a fire in the hex. And this is all on the chart. 72 does not start a fire. 82 does not start a fire. 20 on the last missile, that actually did start a fire. Fire. All right. So now the Abrams, I'm just going to replace that Abrams with the brew up. Well, I can replace all of that with the fire marker because nobody can enter. Nobody can enter in a non-fire, in a hex that's on fire. And if you're in a hex that's on fire, you have to leave it by the end of next turn or you're eliminated. Basically, you got to get the Vic out of there. I actually did put a brew up counter over there for some reason. All right, that's it. That's it for turn BA. This was a very, very exciting turn, especially that last part where you had the headquarters tank and then you had 6 spandrel missiles coming in on it. 1 hits it and brews it up, and 4 of the other ones miss, and 1 of the other ones actually explodes and starts a fire. All right, that's it. I hope you found this entertaining. Please like and subscribe. Have a good day. Bye-bye.